Today's video is something that I definitely don't look forward to making. I definitely didn't wait until more things would develop just so I could make this video even longer and more entertaining for you guys, because honestly, I'm disgusted by it. Totally and completely disgusted. And one of the most disgusting things about this disgusting topic that we're going to be discussing, even though it's disgusting, is the fact that all the progressives here who don't care about money and who are immoral betters seem to be monetizing the hell out of this drama with all these mid-rolls. Seriously, look at the videos that I'm referencing throughout the course of this video, and they're all crazy monetized by these progressives, which I find disgusting. The idea that you would monetize a topic like this? Gross. By the way, this is a video being brought to you by our sponsor, Noble Gold. Inflation isn't something that we've heard about for a long time in this country. Yet last month, the inflation rate in the United States of America reached its highest point in 29 years. 29 years since 1992. That's a huge problem for us in terms of buying food or gasoline, etc. However, it's an even bigger problem if you're planning on retiring anytime soon. Right now, you need to put up an inflation dam in order to preserve the value of your savings and your investments. But it's not too late. Noble Gold actually specializes in retirement plans and IRAs. So their team of experts should be your first stop because they make it so easy to put together that inflation dam. And for this month, anybody who opens up a 401k or an IRA with Noble Gold, you will be gifted an American Eagle 1-ounce silver coin. Not many people can relax when inflation is this high, but like thousands of others, with Noble Gold, you'll be okay. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com using the custom URL in the pinned comment or the description of this video in order to learn more. Again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com, custom URL in the pinned comment or in the top of the description box of this video to learn more and secure your investments against inflation. But real talk, setting aside the hypocrisy of all these people being Karl Marx in the streets and F.A. Hayek in the sheets, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. And this all started with our good friend of the channel, definitely subscribe to him if you haven't heard of him, Stephen Michael Davis, posting this clip of the Young Turks talking about a journalist called Aaron Mate.
They said Aaron Mate yelled at me. And so
Aaron Mate lied. Aaron Mate. everyone cares what Aaron Mate has to say, right?
Okay.
The guy who denies that Syrian children were killed with chemical attacks. Yeah.
And
fuck
gets
Aaron
paid
Mate.
by the...
Yeah, fuck you.
Gets
Anyway,
paid
let's
by the
move on.
Russians.
Let's end the freaking pod. I can't.
Okay, see, that's what happens.
I can't stand.
You just
I
saw
can't
it.
stand that guy, and I can't stand the very intentional disinformation they put out there in regard to disgusting dictators around the world. The very people they seem to be working for, to be quite honest with you. Let's move on.
All right, we're done.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
But now we know for sure.
Now, there's something beautiful, elegant, dare I say, about this whole controversy, this whole nuclear war between the progressives, starting over Ana Kasparian's horrible attitude and the fact that the Young Turks just smear everybody that they get into a disagreement with. By the way, the response that Ana gave,
Fuck you,
was due to the fact that Aaron Mate mocked a tweet that Cenk Uygur put out talking about how the Israel-Palestine thing is all based on the fact that people believe in different sky gods. If it wasn't for those sky gods, these people would all get along. The real problem is religiosity in the sky gods, not anything else. So people made fun of Cenk. Aaron Mate was one of the many people who made fun of Cenk. And this is how they responded, by smearing this guy as a puppet of Syria, as a puppet of Russia, puppet of everybody, etc., etc., because this is what the Young Turks do.
fuck Aaron Mate. Yeah, fuck you.
And one of the things that I want you guys to pay very close attention to when you're listening to them talk about this back and forth and how disgusted they are about these smears, etc., etc., is the fact that this is what the left does. They smear people based on motivation instead of arguing the policy, and the only reason that this is getting any attention from the progressives is because now Ana and Cenk are doing it to other people on the progressive left. Had this not been the case, had this been a right-winger that they were digging up nasty dirt on, this would be totally fine. One of the reasons we know this is because Ana Kasparian and the Young Turks went super personal with Dave Rubin, and none of these people cared. They all cheered it on. They all actually jumped in on it, even though Ana was incredibly nasty in that scenario. But let's get into the response from Jimmy Dore, because he got super angry, and this led to a whole series of cascading events that even involves a Me Too situation, because that's how hilarious it is. It's important to point out that there's anger from Jimmy Dore on two different fronts when it comes to this story. First and foremost, he's already angry at the Young Turks over this whole argument about force the vote that we've covered on this channel multiple different times. And the funny thing about that argument, as I stated in the multiple videos that I covered on the topic, is that Jimmy Dore's strategy of forcing the vote on Medicare for all in order to get the American people healthcare, blah, 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 during the pandemic would not have worked. However, the problem that Cenk Uygur runs into when opposing it is that this is the exact type of strategy that Cenk Uygur argues for, that the progressives need to bully everybody else because they're all operating under the false assumption that everybody or the majority of Americans agree with the progressives. So based on the false premises that they both agree on, Jimmy Dore is right, which means that Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks can't really argue against him without going into all these smears and personal attacks, etc., etc. And it's gotten super venomous. And this, by the way, this clip of Ana Kasparian freaking out and the reaction to that, they could have just backed down. They could have just apologized for it. They could have just said, look, we misspoke, we were angry, etc., etc. Anna does not have any self-control, class, or discipline, and we're sorry to this person. And by the way, whether or not that apology is warranted does not matter to me. Who Aaron Mate is does not matter to me. We are covering this because it's trash and it's a fire, aka a trash fire, and it's entertaining. I don't tend to side with any of the people in here. There's a lot of people who are under the misimpression that Jimmy Dore is one of the good lefties because Jimmy Dore criticizes the Democratic Party. I think this is one of the dumbest, most inane points that people on the right make, and it's embarrassing. And if you're under the impression that Jimmy Dore, who's even more further left than the Young Turks, is somehow better for your causes than the Young Turks or any of these other lefties that he's attacking, you're ridiculous. This guy is from the Blame America camp. Any problem in the world, he's going to blame America on. And the Young Turks are also from that camp, except they're not blaming America in this one instance, hence the fight. So Aaron Mate being on the side of Jimmy Dore being on the side of Aaron Mate is not a ringing endorsement of Mate. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the chaos because honestly, this is all about pure entertainment value. And if we were going to break down a bunch of smear artists that are not interested in policy, that don't know the first thing about policy or politics or how to get stuff passed, then we would be here all day interpreting dumb with them. So we're going to go into the smears because one of the moves that Ana Kasparian pulled is a perfect distillation of her character, who she is, and her reaction to being called out for this behavior is also exactly what's wrong with the Young Turks. And it's just so funny to see former employees and former friends recognize this behavior that people like me have been calling out for years on this channel and calling it out publicly. But we'll go to the Jimmy Dore clip first because this took an amazing turn and we have to talk about it.
And now they're so desperate, she's saying that he had harassed her. Well, watch this. She did this to me. She sent a DM to me last night. The last DM she sent me was April 14, 2016. Watching you guys kick ass right now. That was her last DM to me. But here's how she's trying to threaten me. And I'll tell you why this is a big mistake on her part. She says, I'm sure you remember when you constantly made inappropriate comments about how sexy you found me at work and even felt the need to ask me where I shop for my jeans so you can buy a pair for your wife so she dresses better.
Thank you.
So Ana Kasparian, Jimmy Dore, Cenk Uygur, and the Young Turks have been flaming each other for months, and Ana Kasparian wants it to stop. And the way that Ana Kasparian reaches out to Jimmy Dore to try to get it to stop is essentially a blackmail maneuver that she's going to smear him as some kind of a sexual harasser if he doesn't back down from attacking the Young Turks. Now, Ana Kasparian is very emotionally invested in the Young Turks. She talks about Cenk Uygur and she treats him like a father figure. And I know Ana Kasparian comes from a family that's together and she probably has a solid relationship with her father, but Cenk is Anna's political father. Like, she follows him. He's the true believer. She's just somebody who's doing the show because she's interested in it. But Cenk is the zealot. Cenk is the man on a mission. Ana Kasparian is basically on Jank's mission. So she decides to smear him with this, and I want to take note of something incredibly crucial in the smears.
And even felt the need to ask me where I shop for my jeans so you can buy a pair for your wife so she dresses better.
Thank you.
That was followed by an apology card you wrote me for the degrading harassment.
So whenever we're trying to look into a story like this, we have to break down what's being alleged and what are the examples that are given to us. Now, Ana Kasparian talks about a moment where her and Jimmy had an incident where Jimmy Dore apologized, wrote a card, etc., etc. And Jimmy's going to explain his version of that story in a little bit. But she talks about how this was a multiple times, it was ongoing, and it got to the point that Jimmy had to apologize because that's how bad it got. However, her second example is in no way, shape, or form harassment. Somebody saying, I like this article of clothing, especially when it's something as benign as jeans. Could you tell me where you got them because I want to get them as a gift for my wife? Is not harassment. So it's very telling that Ana Kasparian's like, I have multiple different examples of Jimmy Dore harassing me in the years that we worked at TYT, and the first one is something that Jimmy Dore apologized for, so likely some version of that happened. And then the second one is just not harassment. Like, it's nowhere near the same level. It's like if you were to accuse somebody of murdering your sister or something like that, and then you were like, oh, also, they used my phone and they called an international number and it cost me like $5 a minute and they were on the phone for 10 minutes. Like, one of these things is not like the other, and that needs to be really zeroed in on because Ana Kasparian doesn't have a lot to back this up. And also, this is incredibly important. Once Ana messages Jimmy Dore something like this, which she did, and the implication is, if you don't shut up, I'm going to go public with it.
I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as if you're some sort of warrior for what's good in the world. That's going to change.
Jimmy Dore really only has one option. And again, not a fan of Jimmy Dore, not a fan of the Young Turks. I've explained that multiple different times on this channel. And that option is to come forward with his version of the story and show these messages as the explanation for why he's coming forward with this version of the story. Because had Jimmy Dore backed off of the Young Turks, at any point, and I mean absolutely at any point, Ana Kasparian can release this direct message of her to Jimmy, show that Jimmy read it, and say that this is the reason why he backed off. So if Jimmy ever stepped out of line, even a day or two after this message, Jimmy's done because it looks like he has something to hide unless he comes forward. So with that context in mind, let's get into Jimmy Dore's telling of the story because the progressives did not like this version of the story at all.
So I remember I did ask her about, I want to buy a pair of jeans like that for my wife. Apparently that's offensive to her. I don't know if you ever watched the Young Turks, but all they talk about in the second hour when I used to be there was the most outrageous sex stories in the world. So, and I'll tell you this story. The story about that was followed by an apology card you wrote me for degrading harassment. Ana Kasparian used to dress, when I worked there, unbelievably inappropriately for a newsroom. She looked like she was going to a rave. The skirt, one time she came into the newsroom with a skirt so short. It wasn't a pencil skirt. It was like a fluffy one too, but so short that she bent over in front of me and I literally saw her ass and her thong. She's wearing a thong. I literally saw it. Everybody saw it.
Look, we have to be honest. This looks bad for Jimmy Dore. The way that he's telling the story, the excitement in it, the setup about how inappropriately Ana Kasparian would dress, and how everybody noticed, it comes off as really defensive. And if you're progressive and you're like, dress codes, that's the patriarchy and it's racist or whatever, then I understand why Jimmy Dore's recounting of this story does not show him in a good light. Like, real talk, this was not the best way to deliver it, but if this is how it happened, what else can you do?
And I go, hey, Ana, nice news skirt. And everybody laughed. Like, they laughed louder than I thought they would. And so it humiliated her. She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom. And I did it. And I felt bad. At that time, we were friendly. And I was just busting her balls, right, for dressing like that in a newsroom. You're going to bend over and show me your ass? I think that's a little... I'm not offended, but I think that's a little risque. Imagine if I did that, if I walked around showing my ass to everybody. So when I did that, so she got really mad. She got humiliated. Her face turned red. She tried to insult me back, and it just fell flat. And she looked, bad. And I felt bad for her. I didn't fight. I didn't want to make her feel that, but I just wanted to make a little joke. And all I said was, "Hey, Anna, nice news skirt," and everybody in the newsroom, because everybody saw how inappropriate she used to dress, and everybody saw it. And so that's why I got such a huge laugh, and she was so humiliated. So I felt bad for her. So the next day I wrote her a card saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. That was inappropriate. You don't have to worry about that happening again. I won't comment on your clothes anymore." I should have said, no matter how fucking ridiculous.
You mean you'll stop commenting on her thong?
On her thong that I could see.
Again, I just have to laugh at how Jimmy Dore is delivering this information. He's smiling, he's excited, he's emphasizing over and over again that Ana Kasparian dressed so horribly and everybody saw everything, and like he just made a joke, and then the Ana Kasparian freaked out, and then Ana Kasparian tried to throw a joke back at him, and nobody laughed because Ana Kasparian's not funny or interesting, and she doesn't have comebacks because she's not very quick-witted. I get it, Jimmy, but again, probably not the best way to deliver this story. Honestly, you're setting yourself up for some cheap shots from the Young Turks, and since the progressive left is full of character attacks and cheap shots, that's exactly what Jimmy got in response. Now, we're going to go to the Young Turks video in just a little bit, but I do want to show you one thing that I found absolutely hilarious, and that's Jimmy Dore's guest, who he had on screen, or not on screen, but like off screen, but he was listening the whole time, that you might have forgot was actually there while Jimmy Dore was telling the story, because honestly, his face in the way that Jimmy delivered that information was hilarious, and it exemplifies exactly how the progressives reacted to just this part.
But it will have, I don't have a manager, and I don't have a human resource department. So let's bring in Max. Now, Max, where would you like to take the conversation?
Yeah, this isn't really where I thought the conversation was going to go. I don't have the same history with these people, so. I have no problem with Ana Kasparian's style of dress.
Jimmy, for a comedian, you sure don't know how to read the room. But anyway, we gotta go to the Young Turks video in response to this, because this is one of the most sanctimonious responses you could possibly have. And TYT, as I talked about in the beginning, monetized the hell out of this. TYT ran this many mid-rolls in a video where Ana Kasparian is talking about this tragic, ongoing harassment that she as a woman, even though she was a woman in a power position, felt too oppressed to talk about during her time at the Young Turks.
Unfortunately, Jimmy Dore used to work here. It's a decision I deeply regret. We try to expand the spectrum of what is acceptable thought.
So the setup, of course, and you could tell it's a somber occasion. Ana Kasparian has her hair in the bun. Cenk is talking really slow about how he deeply regrets employing Jimmy Dore because he's such a bad guy. But I want to get into the framing of Ana Kasparian's direct message to Jimmy Dore, which, by the way, was a threat. She was weaponizing a MeToo allegation against Jimmy Dore to get him to shut up. But I want to talk about the soft framing from Cenk Uygur about this issue.
He's been attacking us online over and over again with nothing but lies and smears, some of which I'm going to show you right now. But we still held back. And of course it's frustrating. He was a friend, or at least I thought he was, to me and to a lot of people here. And we've been a little shell-shocked by not the disagreements. Who cares? We had disagreements when he was here. That's not an issue at all. But by honestly the lies and the smears and the attacks that were deeply personal in nature. So both Ana and I got frustrated, and at one point she sent him a DM that that Jimmy's going to talk about in this clip that we're going to show you, and it was basically saying, look, we know all these things about you that we haven't shared before, in a way of saying we are holding back while you're going nuts.
Yeah.
Right. And so, do you have no humanity or decency?
You can talk in a somber tone all you want, but when you're saying we were messaging Jimmy Dore to let him know that we were holding back and we know all this stuff about him, but we weren't revealing it even though he's been attacking us mercilessly. Yeah, that's blackmail. Even if you're saying it in a somber, low voice and you're looking very like contrite while you're saying it, That's blackmail. That's what Ana Kasparian did. And I feel bad for Cenk in this one moment, this 1 second, because I believe that Ana Kasparian sent this direct message out to Jimmy Dore on her own. Like, this wasn't a planned thing, but if you're Cenk, you have to back Ana Kasparian in this because she is one half of the Young Turks. Cenk and Ana are the whole show, whether he likes it or not in this moment. So they have to find a way to deliver this. This is why Cenk is kind of coaching her through this. This reminds me a lot of the Cenk's nephew, Dan Crenshaw thing, where he had to bring his son in and basically tell him he's an idiot while soothing his ego.
So I want to be clear about something. So the DM that I sent him specifically called him out on his constant sexual harassment of me at this place, at TYT. I also want to be clear that I didn't talk about it with anyone. I never talked about it with Cenk until very recently, because for obvious reasons. And so I sent him that DM because the harassment has continued. It's not sexual harassment, it's been constant harassment online that wouldn't go away. Doesn't matter if I ignore him, which some of my friends, my leftist friends, have told me, just ignore him, it'll go away, just ignore him, ignore him. Kept going and going and going, directing trolls at me nonstop. And finally I couldn't take it anymore. So I sent him that message saying, you remember what you did to me.
Yeah.
And I can't stand that he positions himself as this moral fighter for progressive values when he and I both know the kind of behavior he engaged in when he was working here. So I wanted to give you that context.
So this is probably the most truthful thing that Ana Kasparian is saying about how she feels about this interaction between her and Jimmy Dore. She does not like that Jimmy Dore does this holier than thou, I'm more moral than you because I'm more left than you. And the reason that Ana Kasparian can't stand it is because that's her shtick. That's the Young Turk shtick. Remember, for these people, there are no disagreements on policy that aren't disagreements from the further left. If you're disagreeing from the right, that is some indication that you sold out and thus you are immoral, because everybody agrees with left-wing positions, that they're the right positions. There's no argument, there's no debate, there's no none of that. You're just disagreeing because you're paid to disagree. And this has been the Young Turk shtick forever. And again, it's another reason why Jimmy Dore has such a solid rhetorical advantage against TYT, is because they took corporate money, or they took money from a major political donor. And now Jimmy's using the exact attack about how money is corrupting for the Young Turks. And Cenk can say all he wants that this money had no influence. But remember, Cenk, Kyle Kulinski, Jimmy Dore, all these people are on this train that political donations that are capped at around $5,000 are corrupting when they come from people who work in certain industries. So you can't really say $25 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg or $20 million from Katzenberg, $5 million from Buddy Roemer aren't corrupting, when your whole shtick is if you believe that's not corrupting, you're not paying attention. If you believe that just give it for their health, that's just not the case. These are corrupt, and if you take the money, you're corrupt. That's the Young Turks' position. That's Jimmy Dore's position. That's Kyle Kulinski's position. And when you all hold the same position, you can't really say, except for this guy, or except for me. That's not how that works, because that's what everybody says.
So he just tells a story like, haha, I humiliated her then, and now I'm going to tell you a story of how funny it was that I tried to humiliate her. Now, since it's Jimmy, half the story's not true, of course. But assume it is. That's your big hero right there that does that to women, looks up their skirt and then laughs at them, and then pretends it's their fault that he's looking up their skirt. Now, parts of the story that aren't true. Of course, Ana wasn't wearing a skirt that short. Of course, nobody else saw. That pervert was trying to desperately look. That's why he made apparently several comments about her body before. And by the way, who was in the room? Ana was teaching at the time, and she had brought in her students, her college students here. No, they did not laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Jimmy, in his own mind, thinks it's hilarious to be a pervert sexual harasser like that, and thinks, oh, all the kids will love that. It'll be such a funny joke as I try to humiliate their professor in front of them.
So two things, and I have to be fair to both sides when we're covering this trashy story. I do think it is indicative of something that Jimmy Dore didn't mention, that this was in front of Ana Kasparian's students. Also, if you're wondering why Ana Kasparian has students, get this. Ana teaches a journalism course at a California State University.
Oh, so you said that it was a white guy. What happened?
Ana Kasparian, the smear merchant. Ana Kasparian never heard a fact that she couldn't get completely wrong. Ana Kasparian, the professional liar, teaches a journalism class to students. Just suck on that for a second, while we do point out the fact that Jimmy Dore left out that this was her students. And obviously, Jimmy points this out later, and I'm not going to even show you the clip, but I agree with it. If nobody laughed, there's no humiliation. Ana Kasparian, they're not telling the truth about this. She got laughed at. That's why she got angry.
As I was walking into the studio, because my students were supposed to watch the show, it was their final assignment, watch the show, and there was a written assignment related to the show.
Again, an assignment for a class on journalism is to watch the Young Turks and write a paper about it. This is not like the most outrageous portion of the story according to most people involved, but to me, watching this is the part where I draw the line. This is the part where I'm disgusted. Journalism students should not be watching the Young Turks. They don't do journalism. It took them 15 years to hire a reporter. They did a crowdfunding thing to hire 5 of them, and like one of them still works there. Maybe. I might be overestimating that one person. So this is horrible in and of itself. As for Ana Kasparian's version of it, I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know who to believe in this scenario, but the fact that Anna's weaponizing it in this way makes me lean against her.
And as I was walking in with them, that was when he made the comment, and he didn't make a comment about a news skirt. He made a comment about how sexy my legs were in front of my students. And it was degrading, obviously, and I want my students to respect me and take me seriously.
Now look, should Jimmy Dore have said whatever he actually said in this scenario? Absolutely not. There's a reason why Jimmy Dore did apologize for that at the time, because he thought it was wrong. That being said, if you're Ana Kasparian and you want your students to respect you, maybe don't take them to the set of your fake news show where you come off all trashy and talk a bunch of garbage and get every fact wrong.
Oh, so you said that it was a white guy. What happened?
How funny would it have been if one of Ana Kasparian's students just wrote a paper that basically read like one of my videos, where they fact-checked everything Anna said and showed her how wrong she was to her face.
But I mean, comments continued after that. Like, that's who he was, and he was, you know, he pretends as if he's like a fighter for progressive values. I heard the way that he spoke to producers here. He is anything but the so-called leftist that he tries to present himself to be, and his audience reflects that.
Now, real talk, this is probably one of the most crucial reasons why I don't believe Ana Kasparian's version of events, is because she's still talking about leftism. She's still talking about politics. She's saying that Jimmy Dore isn't left politically because of X, Y, and Z in his personal life and his personal behavior. Now, I know the left treats politics like their religion. One of their mottos, and I absolutely hate it, is the personal is political. But the idea that Jimmy Dore is not a leftist because he talked to producers in some weird way. Also, again, notice how we've gone off the cliff. We went from a harassment to Jimmy Dore getting into an argument at some point in time with some producer at the Young Turks. Really strange how we've completely de-escalated without that acknowledgement. And then we're talking about how Jimmy Dore isn't really in this political box on the political spectrum, as if that's relevant. Like, the idea that if you do something horrible, then therefore you're not on the progressive left makes no sense at all. Remember, most of the Me Too stuff had to do with people on the left. Harvey Weinstein very famously tried to rebut Me Too allegations against him by talking about how he was going to spend his money going after the NRA, because that was a feasible out for him to target a conservative when he was being accused of crimes. So this idea that leftists can't actually do this, that, or the other is absurd, and again, it just shows you what Ana Kasparian's focus is on. She's still talking about the politics, and she's still trying to win over audience.
His audience reflects that in the way that they responded to that video. Because anyone on the left, anyone who wants to fight for decency, to ensure that everyone lives a life of decency, wouldn't watch that video and think, oh no, that's my guy. That's who I want to side with. That's who I want to fight with. Because everything that Jimmy does on a daily basis, his entire intention is to be indecent and to be incredibly cruel to others Regardless of how much he agrees with them, regardless of how little disagreement he has politically speaking with these individuals, it's literally his bread and butter. This is how he makes his money.
Again, it's just more sanctimonious nonsense on top of more sanctimonious nonsense. And remember, this is their response to Jimmy Dore criticizing them on politics and criticizing the way that they talk about somebody that he likes, Aaron Mate. This is what they're doing. They're saying Jimmy Dore's a bad guy. He did this thing to me personally. He also talked down to some producer at some point in time. Therefore, he's not on the left. And they're totally avoiding that issue.
But guys, buyer beware on all of these people pretending to be on the left and then meanwhile helping authoritarian governments do their propaganda. Mysteriously, oh no, Trump, I just can't find a way to criticize him. Republicans, who are a lot of my Patreon supporters, I can't find a way to criticize the right wing. Hey, look at all these trolls that are on Twitter. They all seem to have nothing but right wing tweets. But oh golly gee, I think the only people that are guilty are progressives in Congress and progressives in the media. You guys should, all of you who are on the left, and by the way, there are real people who are on the left who follow Jimmy and follow Gray Zone. And again, you didn't know, that's okay. But if you watch all this and you say, oh no, I'm still on it, I still love these guys, even though there's obvious liars, well, that's up to you. That's your call to make, and you have at it, Hoss.
You know what's great about this? This is basically like the Saudi Arabian government saying that an Islamic extremist organization aren't real Muslims, and that Islamic extremist organization saying the same thing about the Saudi Arabian government. They keep talking about how they want to build a movement, and they're the real progressives, and those other people, they're not real progressives. They're not in the same movement. Doesn't matter if we only disagree on 5% of policy issues or 20% or whatever. We're not together. We're fragmenting over this, and they're not real. They're grifters. This is how they make their money. They're scumbags. And this is what they're saying back and forth to each other. Jimmy Dore's a grifter because he does stuff that his audience will pay him for. Young Turks grifters because they get financial investments. The crazy thing is that both of these people say things on the internet for money. By the way, I say things on the internet for money. Now, whether or not we're telling the truth is what should matter, but this is all of our jobs. So anytime you get paid to say something, and obviously there's an incentive to fall on certain sides of the issues, you have to watch out for that. This is why I link all my sources in the description of the videos that I do, so you can actually check what I'm saying for yourself. Because that incentive is out there for anybody who gets to the point where they're making money. And this is true whether or not you're having advertisers coming in, whether or not you're getting paid through just YouTube ad revenue, whether or not you have patrons, whether or not you have Subscribestar, whether or not you have investors. It's all the same corrupting influence, because at any given point in time, you can say something that will put your money in jeopardy. Jimmy Dore can say things that will cost him patrons. Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks can say things that will cost them TYT members. I can say things that will cost me patrons and cost me subscribers. This is how it works. This is what they keep focusing on, because all they can do is attack motivation rather than substance. And the great thing is that there's actually no substance here. There's not that big of a difference in terms of policy between these people. This is just personal animosity, and Ana Kasparian attacking Jimmy, Jimmy attacking her, Cenk getting in to defend people. That's what's going on here. There's nothing here. No substance at all.
So I want to be clear about something. I love our members, but I want to be clear about who we are and the kind of audience we want to foster. Because this isn't just about building an audience, it's about building a movement. And working with people, because we work with our audience all the time in pressure campaigns in regard to like Congress and ensuring that we get a vote on a $15 an hour minimum wage. We want fighters beside us, and we want people who have the right ethics and morals to do this with us, right? If you watch that and you think there wasn't a big deal, I think that was totally fine. If there are any remnants of Jimmy Dore's fans within our membership, within our audience, and you see this and you think like, oh, I'm disappointed in you, Anna, I wanna let you know, I'm fucking better than you, okay? Much better than you. I don't want you in our audience. You are garbage. You are not part of what we're trying to do. You're garbage. Okay, so spare me the tweets about how disappointed you are and how you're canceling membership. I do not care. I don't care. I encourage it because I don't want that toxicity. I don't want that culture as part of anything we do at TYT, whether it's internal in the office or external with our audience, period. That's it.
Now, with that being said, what makes me laugh about this video is Ana Kasparian wants to go on this like sanctimonious rant about how if you don't like it, you can leave. We don't want you here. You're disgusting. You're with Jimmy Dore. You're not with me. Go get out of here. Unsubscribe, unmembership, Patreon, all that stuff. I know they don't have Patreon. Relax. She's like, get out of here if you're with Jimmy Dore. And then Cenk comes in to like negotiate it down.
Yeah. Now, guys, a lot of you didn't see that. That's why we're showing it to you. We did a couple stories today about Syria, et cetera, because a lot of you didn't see it. So it's okay if you didn't see it and now you do, right? But what we're saying is, if you see that and you think that's great, sexually harassing women at work and making fun of their clothes and telling everybody that you know what you're looking at underneath their clothes, etc. If you think that's great, that's why we're telling you that if you're associated with us, I'm worried you're going to cause more problems, right?
Jake's like, well, if you sided with Jimmy Dore, it's totally fine. We still want you here. But if because you probably didn't know, please don't stop paying me. Please don't stop giving me your money. I really need it. That's why I'm going off like a televangelist all the time, raising money on TYT.
So if Jimmy wants all those toxic folks who are right, generally speaking, most of them are right wing, but I know that he's tricked some left wingers into thinking he's a leftist. If you think that's leftist, have at it. Okay, that's all we're saying. It's that simple.
Again, this is how extremists talk about each other. Cenk right now is implying that Jimmy Dore is either right-wing or catering to the right wing, and the majority of his audience, because they're nasty, mean people on the internet, are also right-wing. That's why they keep attacking the left, that's why they keep attacking the progressives in Congress, etc., etc. Jimmy Dore's line of attack against Cenk and Ana is that they're too pro-war and too much on the right, and Jeffrey Katzenberg's money and Buddy Roemer's money move the Young Turks to the right. This is hilarious. This is what extremists do to each other. They say, you're not the real member of this religion. I'm the real representative of the religion. You're a bad person. You're evil. Don't follow him. Give me your money. I mean, follow me for the truth. The true line to God. I got it. Now look, there's a lot more to the story that I just couldn't include in this video. If you're interested in more updates, including Kyle Kalinski's weird responses to this whole scenario, let me know down in the comments below if this is something you're for, and also hit like. If you get me to this video, to this arbitrary number of likes that I have thought of in my brain, then I'll definitely make a part 2 or part 7, depending on how you're counting this. As usual, that's all I really have for you guys today. Like the video if you want to show me a like, subscribe for more content, comments, social media, etc. All in the description. Support the sponsor. Till next time.